So next is perception in a group boundaries, whether the learner sees his in a group as a culturally and linguistically separate from the outgroup. Hard boundaries are actually linguistically related to the outgroup, that is soft boundaries. So the refers on how individuals preserve boundaries or their social and linguistic group in relation to other. It involves understanding the limits of inclusion or exclusion, which impact how they interact linguistically with members of outgroups on their norms. So individuals who perceive strict in-a-group boundaries are more likely to difference to signal group to signal group loyalty and protected their group identity. Conversely, those who perceive flexible boundaries may converge more easily to align with other groups, particularly if they feel inclusion and possibility. So next is identification with other in-group social categories. Whether the learner identifies with a few or several other in-group social categories. Example of occupational, religious, gender, social action group, and as a consequence, whether the holds adequate status within his in-group. So this refers to multiple social categories. So this is identification can influence how people communicate in various social contexts, as they may prioritize different aspects of their identity and different interactions. So language accommodation is not limited to ethnic identity alone. Individuals may converge or diverge based on other social identities by whole. For example, a person may use formal language, when we call that is convergence, in a professional setting, to align with their professional in-group, but diverge using formal language with peers in different setting. So, for the conclusion of the convergence and divergence is whether the individuals choose to adopt their language to fit in, to stand, or depends largely on their identification with their in-group, comparison with other groups, the perceived strength and their group's language, and how they define their group boundaries. So that is for our key values. So that the determinants of successful and unsuccessful learning according to the accommodation theory. Here are the key variables. Level 2, the high motivation and level of proficiency. Column B, low motivation and low level of proficiency. Number 1 of key variables, identification with a group. In high motivation, level of proficiency is weak identification. By low motivation, level of proficiency is strong identification. And number 2, inter-ethnic comparison. So, high motivation identification in a group. So motivation is to possess a strong internal or external drive for master language. Their motivation stems from personal interest, career aspiration, cultural integration, or social relationship. So that is for our identification in a group. So second is inter-ethnic comparison. The high motivation level of proficiency mean favorable or comparison. Example, group is not seen as inferior. In low motivation is mixed and in favorable comparison. In group is seen as inferior. So, low motivation level proficiency language is the dual little to interest derived from the language their lack of motivation. Major external factors as negative experience of lack of perceived relevance of low confidence. So, when we say highly motivation level of proficiency, it engaged and adaptive in their learning, which led to continued success in language acquisition. When we see the low motivated, low proficiency learners often struggle with engagement and progress with first their ability to become fluent or effective communicators in the target language. So that is for the meaning of our high motivation and low motivation. So in number 3, ethno-linguistic vitality. In high motivation, low perception. In low motivation, high perception. Number 4, perception and of in-group boundaries. High motivation, soft and open. Low motivation is hard and close. Number 5 is identification with other in-group social categories. And high motivation is strong identification, satisfactory in group, and low, weak identification, inadequate, unsatisfactory in group status. So next is the description of the table. So here are the description of the table. Is a column E is showing the individual's learner is likely to be highly motivated to learning a second language and hence acquire a high level of proficiency. In column B, show when he is likely to be poorly motivated and thus achieve only a lower level of proficiency. So that's it. So next is to the, according to Giles 1979, distinguish two types of change when occur in the lexical language speakers, use of ethnic speech markers, the linguistic features which mark the group members of the speakers. Next one is upward convergence. When we see upward convergence, it involves the attenuation of in-group speech marker. It occurs when the learner is positively motivated toward the group. Upward convergence occurs when the individual adjusts their language or communication styles to align with that of more prestigious and higher status group. This often involves adopting features of speech that are perceived or more formally educated or social accepted. So that is for the definition of the upward convergence. So the downward convergence, it involves the accentuation of ethnic group speech marker. It occurs when the learners is not positively motivated towards the group. So that is for the downward convergence, is when individuals adjust their language or communication styles to align with that of lower status group. This can involve adopting more informal, colloquial, or non-standard language features. So that is for the upward and downward convergence. Upward convergence involves adjusting one's language to align with a higher status group, often for social acceptance or enhance one's credibility. For downward, it involves adapting the language of a lower status group to foster connection and informality. So that is for both types of convergence reflect dynamic nature of language and social interactions, showing how individuals navigate different social contexts and relationships through the language choices. So the implication theory to language teaching. The theory is a general, provides the language teachers with an explanation of language learner, language variability, language use in the result of conflicting socio-psychological attitude and varying